Good evening or good morning. How are you today?
Oh, very good, thank you. For me, it's good evening.
Good evening. And for me, it's good morning. Uh, that's what happens. And I think the time difference is 14 hours. So you're getting ready to go to sleep, and I'm hard at work. So
Right.
let's just say good day. And if you could introduce yourself to everybody, that would be wonderful.
My name is Paul Levi. I am the president of the Australasian College of Behavioural Optometrists. Um, just serving my second and last term because that's our regulation requires. No board member can serve more than 2 terms, which the term is 2 years. And happy to meet you all.
Wonderful. And can you tell everybody a little bit about ACBO and what are its missions and its goals and all of that kind of fun stuff?
Uh, yes, not more informally than formally, but ACBO was founded in the late 1980s. If I remember correctly, 1987. I might. I have a CV of my own, which I'll email to you in due course, which will show you when I joined ACBO. So that would have been in its founding year. We celebrated. We just celebrated the 25th year, perhaps, in 2000, I can't remember, 2012 maybe. It was founded to represent really behavioural optometrists.
And Dr. Levi, how long have you been practicing behavioral optometry?
Practicing to a greater or lesser degree since around about 1982, 1980, somewhere around there, when I stopped being an employed optometrist and opened my own office.
So, in your training, how did you get interested in doing this kind of work?
Well, my original training in optometry was in South Africa. And then, like many of the South African graduates, we continued training at Houston University in Texas. One of my professors was Jerome Rosner, who was very influential for me. And the university at that time was, and I don't know if it still is, and it may well still be, but was had that sort of ethos that there was a pediatric clinic and there was vision therapy, and we used to work with children and do vision therapy with them as part of our training. So from there, my next training came through ACBO, through when our association was founded here.
Okay,
went through formal fellowship training here.
Okay, so you were trained in South Africa and then Houston,
Yes.
and then how did you choose to go to Australia? How did that come about?
Yes, well, what happened was that I think most of the South Africans who went to train in America stayed in America, and I made some inquiries towards them to that end, but had a fiance in South Africa at the time and definitely needed to go back to get married, and it all became very hard to try and organise things, including a sojourn in South Africa in order to get married. Looking around at the Western world at that time, well, we certainly knew we didn't want to stay in South Africa. That left maybe only Canada and Australia as two potential targets for us, and we elected to come to Australia. And that's how we came.
Oh, it sounds like a very good answer, and so you came to Australia, and you said you were an employed optometrist and you started your own office.
Yes.
Did you know when you started your own office that you wanted pediatrics and vision therapy to be a part of that?
No, no, I didn't. In fact, I was employed by a contact lens specialist. Let's call. I'll use the word rather loosely, but somebody who practiced in contact lenses mainly and had a contact lens laboratory, and really was a very very specialised person in that sense. And that's where I worked for 2 years. So my interest in behavioural optometry, I mean, it was there from my training from before, and it just gradually developed as my practice developed.
So you saw a need to serve the patients, so you started to bring what you had learned at Houston into your practice.
Very much so.
And your practice now is mostly pediatrics or vision therapy, or do you see primary care patients as well?
It's quite a mixed. It's quite a mixed practice. It's in a suburb near to the sea in Perth, and the demographics is families living there. So, I get normal people coming in off the street and who live in the surrounding suburbs that come to see me. And I get referrals from schools and from school psychologists and teachers and patient-patient referrals and so on of children as well.
And do you have you found that over the years of your practice that what you do has gained more acceptance, or people are still questioning it?
People don't question it to me at all. The people that come to see me really want to see me, and so they're very comfortable with me, and I'm very comfortable with them. There's much more a question of acceptance from other professionals, and so we encounter, although I don't encounter it personally, but there are groups, particularly in the eastern states of Australia, who put out publicity from time to time that is anti this procedure and anti that procedure, and behavioural optometry will frequently get a mention there. So that's probably the same all around the world, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's why it's so important that we work together as a global organization, an effort to kind of stamp out whatever goes on in one country, because eventually it will make its way to other countries. And yeah.
In general, no. I mean the psychologists, and that includes school psychologists who work specifically within the schools, and also psychologists who work, with children, seem very comfortable to refer patients. The school teachers seem very comfortable, and presumably those who are not comfortable are not sending patients. So I don't have contact with them. So it's not something I encounter at all, really.
And how did the organization of ACBO get started?
We have a visionary group which is now just in the last 10 years or so evolved off the management of the college, headed by Graham Peachy, who was our founding president and founding father. Graham Peachy is a name that many behavioural optometrists are very familiar with.
Absolutely.
And Chris Henderson and a group of them formed the first board of ACBO and led it for its first decade or a bit longer. And so, like all organisations, things evolve, and so I'm the last remaining oldie of that group, and the board now is a much younger group who have grown up with the security of this organisation and the security of the position which we are now in, which is a very strong and positive position, and see things often differently than I do because of the history that I have and the history that they have.
So you were part of the founding members of, and are now, as you just said, the last of the original group. But now there are some. Can you talk a little bit about the founding of the organization? What was the main purpose for founding the organization?
To bring behavioural optometrists together in a strong group, and to represent their needs, to introduce a training and accreditation process for fellowship, to really move behavioural optometry from a disparate group of independent practitioners into an organised group with a structure.
So there is a fellowship process. I know that the process evolves just like any process. How is the process today? Can you describe what individuals need to do to become a fellow?
Yes, so in order to become a fellow, we have the University of New South Wales has a master's program in optometry, which is it's a master's by coursework, and one of the units, a 4-unit program, one of those units is a unit in behavioural optometry. So that is a requirement for fellowship. And then we have a number of training camps, so at least one, maybe more than one, I may be wrong, training camp that the candidates go to and work with the examination board. And there's an open book examination process, and then finally a closed book examination process. Up till recently, there was a requirement to write a journal article. That could be by research or book research, let's say, by researching a topic. And we have just changed that to give an option for people to do, if they prefer not that pathway, they can do what we've called a practicum, which will be I believe 50 hours. Anyway, a regulated number of hours in practice with at least 2 or 3 fellows, and a logbook for them to log what kind of the kind of exposure that they've had, so that they'll have to record it and experience it and participate in it. And after, I think it's 50 hours that we've said, that will replace having to do a research type unit.
I'll have to say that I am disappointed that there will not be a paper. As you know, as the editor, I love to work with good research, and love the opportunity to work with wonderful authors down there, and so I hope that some people will continue to take the research process and paper process, and but that's my bias, of course.
I understand that. I mean, we were finding it's really difficult to know the percentage of fellows in the group. It's somewhere around about 70 odd fellows out of about 300 members. in raw terms, and it seems to be difficult to change that percentage. We want to drive the percentage up if we can, and without devaluing our fellowship, which is something we don't want to do.
Absolutely.
And it seems like sitting and researching and writing is one of the hurdles that is holding people back. And we felt that this was an option which would produce a good clinician, at least as good as somebody who had done research, maybe better even.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
And that's what we're after. So,
absolutely. I was, I love working with the authors from there, and I hope that everybody will continue to produce some case material and stuff like that, and I will continue to hound and beg and plead for information in many different ways. So I know there, of course, there's an annual meeting, and then there are courses and so forth. What are the main goals of the organization?
We're targeting. There are a number of matters that we're targeting. Some of them are better not spoken about just at the moment because there may be great opposition to them from other areas. So, for example, one of the things we're trying to that issue of legitimacy that you raised earlier. So we're trying to move right past that point, and we've made considerable progress in that. Insofar as when the Optometrist Association is looking for an expert opinion in this area, it'll often turn to us for that opinion. Now, in previous years, when we were just a disparate group of people, they would have formed their own opinions. We have recently, I don't know if you're familiar with our previous president, Susan Larter, who tragically passed away.
Yes.
Now, in her name, we have founded a vision trust. That is a legal entity which is a trust fund, and the beneficiaries of that are going to be children who are unable to afford, where the families are unable to afford to pay for the vision therapy. So in a quite a short space of time, we've been going about 3 years, we are now generating funds. We're already calling for people to apply now to our trust management to apply for funding for appropriate cases.
That's wonderful. I'm sure she would be proud to know that her memory is alive and strong, and children are benefiting, and her passion is still shining through. Now, obviously, several years ago, ACBO and OEP decided to join forces to work on the Journal of Behavioral Optometry, which has subsequently moved to Optometry and Visual Performance. Since you do have the historical perspective as well, how did the two organizations start to work together? How did they form such a wonderful relationship?
Look, that relationship goes right back to the very beginning of ACBO, because Graham Peachy, our first president, was was an OEP person. Our second president, Bev Roberts, actually became the president of OEP. Is that correct? For a period of time. So we have for always in our history, we've always been very close to OEP. That the shift, the specific shift to the journal cooperation was not at all a hard one for us, because we do not have the staff or a dedicated individual who is prepared to be editor of a journal and as you said yourself, drive authors to write articles, to create a journal, because we need somebody to drive that. And so when the opportunity came up, we were more than delighted.
Wonderful. And how are what other ways have the two organizations worked together in the past?
Oh well, so we have. We'll just we'll pan back a little bit. We have a remarkable website that we're extremely proud of. That website now runs an online bookstore, as well as a whole lot of other things that it does for us. But our original bookstore was one of the offices in one of Bev Roberts' practice, which had books in it and was manually run out of her office, just as a voluntary thing on behalf of ACBO. And OEP put in a large amount of stock in the first place without charging ACBO, which didn't have any money anyway at that stage, and allowed us to use them as a resource in the first place. And over time, because it's now 25 years, over time we are now on a very different footing and buy stock when we need stock and have an extremely efficient bookshop which people go online, order what they want, and then pay for what they want, and then the website sends us a message and says, this person has paid for this, and we send it out to them. So there are no debts, there are no difficulties, and there's no administration. It's just a wonderful system and working very well for us. But that all started with support from OEP. And in a similar vein, all the pamphlets that you'd be very familiar with, that we hand out to patients and teachers and these conditions and those conditions, those all started from OEP, who generously allowed us to use their product in the first place. And again, over time, the footing has changed so that we buy what we need now. We've also started Australianising the pamphlets and have made our own. There are some that are now we produce ourselves. But again, all started with a generous support from OEP.
Wonderful, wonderful. And of course, as we were discussing off camera, we've got the next annual ACBO conference coming up in the UK. Do you expect many members of ACBO to be making the journey?
I don't have much idea, because I haven't asked our office the question. In fact, we might not even be aware. I know that we certainly are advertising it, and I see emails about ACBO coming out of our office. But I would imagine the support would be much the same as in the previous for us overseas ACBOs. The ones that are run locally obviously are much better supported by Australians than the ones overseas, but
of course,
I would imagine the support would be much the same.
Wonderful. And of course, in it's now 2014 in the UK. In 2018, it's going to be coming back home to you guys. Yes. Any secret you want to divulge on terms of location? We haven't selected the location yet, but
probably, in fact, this weekend coming, I'm going to be in Melbourne for one of our annual face-to-face meetings, and that's where we're going to select the location. We have bids from 3 cities, Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, and each of them has something to recommend it, and each has advantages and disadvantages, like most things, and we're going to work our way through that this weekend. But wherever it is, it's going to be wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. My wife has already told me that she will be accompanying me on that trip, whether I want her to or not.
You'll have a great time. Both of you will have a great time.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So thank you for speaking with me today, and I look forward to meeting you face to face in just a few short months in Birmingham, UK.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Lovely.